What is going on, guys? NBA Bounce. Now, this is just a video. It's kind of like a follow-up, if you would. I did a video explaining why this game is not worth $49.99. Now, I want to get one thing clear. That was not a rant. I don't dislike the game. I like this game just like I like Super Soccer Blast. I was just making a point that this game is not a $49 product. The $49 is really hard to justify $50. Now, the reviews on this are 4.6 from the people who chose to rate the game on the PlayStation 5. They gave it a 4.6. So, I mean, the game is getting a good, people do like it. Now, it was only 30 reviews, so I don't personally believe this game has a lot of sales. I don't think it was made to get a lot of sales. Nobody expected this to be like one of the hottest selling games or anything like that. That's not really what the point was. And that goes more to my point. And I'm more emphasize how Upright and Unfinished Pixel would have been better off, and they would have did better if they would have just left the NBA out of this project. Why do I say that? Because now you can sell the game for a lower reasonable price, sell more copies, because you would sell way more copies, and the profit would go straight to you. You wouldn't know the NBA nothing. And I think they would do a lot better. Now, I'm going to show you what I mean when I say this game is not bad. It's fun. It's enjoyable, but the game just doesn't have the intelligence. I think it's made more for kids, as you can see. I can see that now. It's definitely a kid's game, and I'm going to show you why it's a kid's game. Why it's a kid's game, okay? First of all, the players are very tiny. They look like they're not even 5 feet tall. Maybe they're 5 feet tall, if that. If this is a 10-foot rim, okay? If that's a 10-foot rim, now we play on the hardest difficulty. On slow speed, we'll just use that ball. I'm going to show you where I'm at. Now, I customized some of these players, so the Lakers that I'm using are all females. They're the Lady Lakers, basically. But anyway, that's beside the point. Let's get into it so I can explain to you why this game, and it's on the hardest difficulty, remember that.
Rebound with no one around. Nice.
And as you can see, all you have to do is run this play. Run back here, pass it to her, and shoot. And you can just run that over and over and over and over again. You can shoot and then you let your CPU teammates do all the defending for you, because they will. I go over here, throw it here, and I'm gonna burn her to the basket every time, her or him. That's a him, I think. See, your CPU user teammates are gonna get steals and stuff for you, but as long as you go back here and do this, because these players don't have any attributes, so they're all 99 overalls. Everybody is. They all do the same stuff. They're all equal to one another. So that's the thing. It's like Super Soccer Blast. It doesn't have anything going on with the intelligence, because all players play exactly the same way. It doesn't matter who you're playing against. They do the same exact stuff. Every team plays identical to one another. They don't adjust to what you're doing in your game plan. And like I said, my CPU teammate is going to constantly get steals for me. And then I'm just going to keep running that same play over and over and over and over again. And it's not fun. Now, I know some people are going to say, well, don't play like that. Do different stuff and the game will be more fun. I'm not saying that you should, I understand that, because I do that. But I'm just showing you, giving you more emphasis on how the game is definitely fun. I'm just re-emphasizing this ain't no $49 game, and I'm also re-emphasizing the idea that they would be better off without the NBA license, because you could sell more copies of the game, because you'd have a lower, more realistic price, a price that makes more sense, because I love Super Soccer Blast, but it's not a super intelligent game. Everybody in that game is equal. Every player is nothing but a cosmetic avatar. There's no unique players in this game. There's no unique players in Super Soccer Blast. Your created players, when you play against them, they all are identical to one another. So that is where the value is lacking in these games. In order for you to, even if the game looks like this, that's actually okay. If you have teams that play different than others, some players are good three-point shooters, some players are more like high-level rebounders, high defenders, some players can't really shoot the three ball, that sort of thing, and then you had to like strategize yourself. But I understand the game is probably more of a kid game, so that's why you have this. So it's actually okay. The absolute only thing that's not okay is the $49 price. This is basically just Super Basketball Blast. That's all it is. It's not it's not some game that you should be charging $50 for. But yeah, my main point is that was not a rant at all. That was just me making a valid point of why, what I was trying to emphasize. And, you know, there's barely any strategy. You don't have to do anything different for any opponent. Once you find their holes, every team has the same holes, and you just keep running that same play over and over again, and they will never pick up on it. Now, they're going to stop some of them here and there because they're going to steal the ball. That's the way the game is. They're going to do that. The play is not going to work 100% of the time, but it's going to work enough to the point where you'll just completely shut your opponent completely out. Or not shut them out, but blow them completely out. I usually win by 30 to 40 points in just about every matchup. Sometimes I win by a little bit more than that, sometimes a little bit less than that. I've won by as much as like 60. And, you know, I thought the game was ridiculously hard at first because that was before I had the game figured out. But once you figure out where the intelligence is at, you'll be fine. You know what I'm saying? You're going to smoke the opponent every time with the same identical game plan. Because they do a lot of blocking. So that's where the difficulty factor is. And they didn't block that, but I had to rush the shot to keep them from blocking it. But the downfall was I had to sacrifice my shot meter, which defeats the purpose. And as you can see, we're up by 32, just using the same game plan. They block everything almost, basically.
Almost had it.
So we're up by 29 here. But yeah, and you know, I do see people do like the game, and that goes more to my point because if the game is getting that type of review, 4.6, with a 5, you know, up to, you know, the rating goes up to 5, and it's getting a 4.6 from the 30 people that reviewed it, that goes to show you if you sold the game for less money and you got rid of, and you didn't have the NBA license, and you sold it for $8.99 like Super Soccer Blast, you would sell a lot of copies, and you'd have a lot of you would probably make more money. You might say, well, you'd make less because you sell it for less. No, but you'd sell way more, and you wouldn't owe the NBA any of the money. So I personally think that would make more sense, and I think people would still buy Super Basketball Blast if that's what you had with sort of a generic license. So this is one of those things where the NBA logo is actually hurting your product. I think a majority of the time it would help, but when you produce a game like this, I think it's not helping you.
No good.
And that's what I believe. I can't prove that beyond a reasonable doubt as a fact, but I do believe that. Now, if you look at the Sports Gamers Online, they reviewed this game. They said the difficulty was too high.
Tough shot.
And that's because they hadn't figured out where the holes are.
Out of bounds.
You know, they haven't found the holes in the game. Please don't make this game any easier. That would be a horrible mistake if they patched it and made it easier on the pro difficulty level. If anything, if I was them, I would, create another difficulty level that's a little bit harder, where the CPU has a little bit of a higher intelligence. And as you can see, we won by 40 on the hardest difficulty. And that's my typical result. Between 30 and 40 points is usually what we win by. But anyway, that's this video. I do actually like the product. I just think the $50 price is outrageous for a game that plays like this. But the game is fun. There is an audience for it. And like I said, it's a child's game. It really is. With the way the players look, how small they are, these are basically children. You can't even put facial hair on them, and they're very, very short. These are definitely kids. And it's for kids. And that difficulty level is probably something that is for kids. I would say no older than 12 years old. Me as an older adult, this game is not going to do much for somebody like myself. Even though I can honestly say I enjoy playing it a little bit. I played a lot of games, but the fun factor has ran completely out. And here's the thing, that's not knocking the product. Like I said, I think the game is for a smaller audience, a younger audience. It's a kid's game, and an adult playing a game that's aimed at kids, the fun factor is not gonna be there, okay? So that would be the other side of it. The same with Super Soccer Blast. But Super Soccer Blast was, I think it was $7.99. It's the original price. Sometimes it's on sale for like $5 or $4 sometimes. But anyway, that's this video. No, I don't dislike the game. No, I don't think it's bad because it is for kids. It's just not for an older audience like somebody like myself. That's why the game comes off as kind of weak. Not weak, kind of just a simple nothing game, which nothing wrong with that. The only issue I have is the $49 price. That to me, I'm still standing on that, even though the game is fairly fun and it does have an audience. I do agree with I don't disagree with the review, the 4.6. I think that's okay. The Sports Game Online gave it a 7 out of 10. But for the audience, the kid audience and the fun factor, it is a high rated game. But no way this is worth $50.